Do you realize? Throughout our lives, we often get caught in a whirlwind of worries. What others think, what could go wrong, and how to keep everything under absolute control. Every sunrise, you rush headlong into a relentless pursuit, dazzling success, recognition from everyone, and an illusion called perfection. Yet, a cruel paradox. The harder you push yourself, the heavier everything becomes, until one fateful day, a quiet voice within you suddenly speaks up, demanding you stop. You let go of the compulsion, stop begging life to cooperate, cease worrying about everything, and then, miraculously, every gear suddenly runs smoothly. And that is a profound paradox, a truth few would expect. And none other than Dostoevsky, a master of the soul, grasped this truth most profoundly. Imagine, Dostoevsky stood before the barrel of a gun, mere seconds before his life would end. In that moment, on the brink of death, an astonishing truth emerged. He saw through all the meaningless noise, the futile struggles, and the ultimate fear. And then, everything once considered vital suddenly vanished, becoming utterly meaningless. It was at the moment he completely let go of all control that a miracle occurred. Life itself unfolded in an unexpectedly perfect order. Make no mistake, this is not callous indifference, but the true essence of freedom. This is the kind of freedom that truly begins when you stop holding on to everything so tightly that nothing can move. Because a harsh truth is, excessive preoccupation will kill the natural, beautiful flow of life. When you stop clinging to everything, you will begin to merge with the flow of the universe. And when you cease the relentless chase, a strange thing will happen. Everything you desire will suddenly find its way to you. This is the great philosophy of letting go, a journey not of failure but a spectacular self-discovery. And through Dostoevsky's keen eyes, we will together unveil the secret, discovering why letting go is not a weak surrender. In fact, it is the only path for us to truly live a full and meaningful life. Look, we live in a world where control is worshipped like a religion, a supreme power. From every self-help book, every resounding success story, to every motivational quote, all whisper the same haunting message: try harder, do more, relentlessly. Pay attention to the smallest details and absolutely never stop. That is the teaching we receive. We have been deeply indoctrinated with the belief that control equals ultimate power, and only relentless effort defines our self-worth. What if what you believe in is actually an illusion that's binding you? You believe discipline is the answer, but a shallow discipline only hardens you. You've always believed that relentless effort brings peace. Yet sometimes, the more you try to mend things, the more cracks you inadvertently create. Meticulously plan, optimize everything, and constantly measure. However, the harsh truth is, the more you try to control life, the more it slips through your fingers. It's like trying to hold water with a clenched fist. We call it ambition, or sometimes productivity. Yet beneath that facade, something more subtle exists. It is fear. It's the fear that if you stop trying, everything will fall apart. Or the fear that stillness is a sign of failure. And the fear that if you don't keep moving forward, you'll be forgotten. However, the great writer Dostoevsky saw through this illusion. He understood that the root of suffering is not chaos. On the contrary, it stems from the desperate attempt to conquer that chaos. He saw that humanity's desire for control doesn't come from strength, but from deep-seated fear. It's the fear of uncertainty, the anxiety of loss, and the truth that nothing is truly ours to control. It was in Notes from Underground that his tragic narrator rebelled against reason and all order, because he understood that the relentless pursuit of perfection through reason would only lead to madness. The paradox is, the more you strive to perfect life, the more you lose the true meaning of living. Did you know the more happiness is forced, the faster it slips away? And then, we tirelessly build habits, schedules, and systems, but are we mistakenly believing they are true security? Yet, safety is not synonymous with peace. It's merely a cage woven from your own expectations. Explore Dostoevsky's world, where reason promises liberation but cruelly delivers tragedy. What's worth pondering is that, both in his world and ours, people have confused obsession with progress. A common mistake. They think mastery will protect them from pain, but it only exacerbates it. And the undeniable truth is, reconsider. Control isn't power, but sophisticated resistance subtly disguised as order. In other words, it's your refusal to trust anything beyond your ability to measure or manage. As a result, living this way, every outcome becomes a battlefield, every delay a personal failure, and every imperfection an enemy to be conquered. And a harsh rule is, the more you try to resist life, the more strongly life resists you back. To understand this clearly, let's turn to the story of a man who once stood before a firing squad. A terrifying scene. He was pushed against the wall, delicate snowflakes falling, melting into mud beneath his boots. It was Fyodor Dostoevsky, standing there, blindfolded, hands tied tightly, breathing what he was sure were his last moments of life. A moment of extreme peril, a soldier raised a white cloth, and the cold click of rifle bolts echoed. Just one more moment, and the execution order would be given. What happens in that final moment? Everything he had ever cared about, books, reputation, ambitions, all vanished. Now there was no audience left to impress, no purpose left to fulfill. The only thing left was the burden of awareness, an unbearable truth. The final moment, it had arrived. In that moment of life and death, his mind flashed with images of his brother, close friends, and even the golden sunlight on the church dome he had gazed at that morning. He recalled the simple taste of bread, the resounding laughter, and all the days wasted on unnecessary worries. Then suddenly, all thoughts vanished, leaving only an overwhelming sensation, a beauty both majestic and terrifying, of life itself in its raw existence. That experience was etched into his mind, and later, Dostoevsky vividly recreated it through the character of Prince Mishkin in his masterpiece, The Idiot. A man standing at death's door, with only a few brief minutes left to live, suddenly understood the infinite value of every breath, every moment. Each passing second seemed to stretch into eternity, touching the threshold of everlastingness. Every heartbeat suddenly became strangely sacred, an ironic truth when life is something we often rush through, complain about, and try to control. Only when standing on the brink of oblivion does life reveal its unbearable preciousness. And then, just as the rifles were raised, a messenger rushed in. The execution order had been miraculously revoked. It turned out to be nothing but a cruel charade, a mock execution elaborately staged by the Tsar as a chillingly brutal lesson. In the blink of an eye, Dostoevsky was given back the life he thought he had lost. The man who had accepted death was now forced to continue living, but his soul would never be whole again. He had touched the fragile boundary between life and death, experiencing absolute stillness when everything one once cared about was stripped away. And it was in that profound stillness that he discovered a truth life could never teach, that all control is merely an ephemeral illusion. From that fateful day, he no longer wrote as a man yearning for fame or worldly success. Instead, he wrote as one who had truly contemplated eternity, understanding the profound depths of human existence. He began to grasp that the human soul cannot be saved by external efforts or order, but by a deep inner realization, a kind of realization that can only emerge when everything you once mistakenly believed was essential has been completely stripped away. It was on that fateful day that Dostoevsky let go of all worldly concerns, and he began to truly live a full life. Non-attachment, or letting go, is one of the most profoundly misunderstood concepts in our journey through life. Many people mistakenly believe that this means indifference, emotional numbness, or complete apathy towards everything around them. They envision a life drifting aimlessly, free from any attachments or influences. However, Dostoevsky never spoke of indifference. What he truly meant was freedom. It's the kind of freedom that only emerges when you stop confusing attachment with love or control with security. Remember, there's a clear line between not feeling and not clinging, for indifference only paralyzes you. Conversely, letting go awakens you. It's not about caring less, but about a pure, non-possessive, fearless care that doesn't demand life constantly bend to your will. In Notes from Underground, Dostoevsky portrayed a character who resisted happiness, mocked logic, and rebelled even against reason itself. He acted that way because, deep down, he understood a truth we all try to hide, that humans don't actually crave peace. What we truly want is proof of our own significance. We don't crave mere tranquility, rather we crave control over how that tranquility manifests. We turn pain into identity, control into virtue, and then rationalize it as strength. Yet that's merely the ego cleverly disguised under the guise of discipline. The more you try to control every tiny detail, the more you inadvertently feed the ego that constantly fears losing control. This is the ego's ultimate subtle trick, an effort cloaked in spiritual attire. You delude yourself into believing you're being responsible, when in truth, you're just afraid to let go. You turn your mind into a god, and personal progress into a religion. But ironically, life continues to flow on its own course, unaffected, unstoppable, and utterly indifferent to all your plans. Letting go, as Dostoevsky understood it, is not an escape from life. On the contrary, it's a deeper engagement with it. It's about trusting the natural flow of things instead of struggling against it. It's the ability to immerse yourself in chaos without resistance, and then find a strange peace that comes from no longer needing to control every outcome. When you truly let go, you will stop creating all unnecessary resistance. You will see something magical happen when you stop categorizing reality into what you like and what you don't like. The very moment you stop resisting what is happening, that's when the flow of life truly begins to pour forth. And you'll be surprised to find that's also when serendipitous events start to manifest. People and opportunities will find their way to you, not because you try to force them, but because you've truly broken free from your own mental patterns. You've probably experienced this. The moment you stop obsessing over a problem, an answer unexpectedly appears. Similarly, the moment you stop clinging to someone, they proactively reach out to you. And the amazing thing is, the moment you stop forcing things, they will naturally fall into place perfectly. It's certainly not magic, but rather the wondrous synchronicity of the universe. That's how the universe responds to the stillness within your soul, instead of anxious struggles. And this is the profound truth that the great writer Dostoevsky realized. Life works best the moment you stop trying to create or control it. Indeed, we live in an era where effort is worshipped like a god. Wherever you look, you'll see constant urgings: optimize, improve, grow, upgrade yourself. You scroll through countless feeds, witnessing people who seem more disciplined, more successful, and more in control of their lives than you. And then, unconsciously, you start to value yourself by dry numbers, followers, productivity, or progress achieved. Sadly, we have traded faith for relentless optimization. The modern world is selling you the same lie that Dostoevsky warned about over a century ago, that if you just try hard enough, you can eliminate all suffering. That the right habits, routines, and mindsets will be the ultimate key to eternal peace. But Dostoevsky, with his profound insight, understood human nature better than anyone. He understood that humans don't merely endure struggles. In fact, we need them to grow. Without those challenges, our lives would become empty and meaningless. He had a profound saying: strangely, people are so busy listing their sorrows that they forget to count their own joys. That single statement perfectly encapsulates the chronic ailment of modern society. Instead of seeking peace, we crave conflict, drama, or anything to confront because, without opposition, we seem to lose our sense of self. Though the modern world has worshipped convenience like a god, ironically, we have never felt so restless, anxious, or discontent. Every convenience that should have liberated us now pushes us into a relentless pursuit of control. We meticulously track our sleep, mood, every calorie consumed, as if this perfect measurement could extinguish all internal chaos. Yet, all we are doing is nurturing an illusion, similar to what Dostoevsky saw through in the Western dream of rational progress, a blind belief that reason and absolute control would ultimately bring happiness. Reality has proven the opposite. It has only made us busier, emptier, and more isolated than ever before. We have turned the process of self-improvement into a form of emotional capitalism. Now, the meaning of life is seen as a product, purchasable through relentless effort. Even meditation has become a challenge, and stillness has become a performance. We diligently pursue peace as if it were an achievement to be attained, without realizing that this very pursuit is the root of the problem. In Dostoevsky's world, people believed that perfection would be the key to humanity's salvation. Our world, however, is full of people who believe that productivity will be their own salvation. Both beliefs are identical illusions. They are mental prisons constructed from what we call progress. Every time we confidently believe we've built a system that can end all suffering, in reality it merely transforms the form of suffering. We call it progress, but Dostoevsky called it outright self-deception. There will come a moment when all the surrounding noise suddenly quiets down, not because the world has changed, but because you yourself have truly changed. What happens when you stop chasing, stop bargaining, and stop forcing everything to be perfect down to the last detail? It's strange, but the moment you stop overthinking, everything seems to automatically find its own flow. It's a quiet sense of homecoming, not the glory of victory, nor the bitterness of defeat, but the profound peace after years of relentless effort. We often mistakenly believe that life demands our constant control. But the truth is, it only needs space to breathe freely. Letting go doesn't mean you lose something. On the contrary, it's the act of relinquishing the illusion that you could ever control everything within your grasp. And in that very moment of letting go, something entirely new awakens. A rhythm, a natural order that has been silently waiting, hidden beneath all your forced efforts. Let's look back at moments in your life when things unexpectedly fell into place with surprising ease. A project suddenly became a resounding success right after you stopped overthinking and worrying excessively. A significant person returned precisely when you stopped desperately trying to pursue them. Inner peace arrived the moment you finally stopped feeling the need to explain or justify yourself. These aren't mere coincidences, they are testaments to the profound harmony of the universe. Psychologists call this phenomenon flow state, a natural level of consciousness that emerges when you stop forcing or resisting. Even the great writer Dostoevsky deeply understood this, but through a contemplative spiritual lens. He believed that true salvation lies not in the pursuit of perfection, but in complete acceptance, the courage to face, to stop running from suffering, and to allow it to temper and transform you. He once wrote a powerful statement: "Suffering is the sole origin of consciousness." When you stop bothering to control every aspect of life, you'll begin to feel its pulse and vibrancy once more. You stop being the sculptor trying to shape, and instead become the pliable clay, ready to be molded, changed, and refined by life's experiences themselves. And that is where true authenticity resides. Not in the ideal you think you need to become, but in who you truly are, when you finally stop pretending or hiding. The universe does not reward rigid attempts at control. Instead, it favors and bestows upon harmonious cooperation. And when you stop clinging desperately, it's as if life itself takes a deep breath and whispers, "Finally, you are truly ready." Dostoevsky's enlightenment wasn't just abstract philosophy, it was a profound awakening to humanity. A shocking truth. He realized that letting go wasn't a sign of weakness, but the beginning of true power. Sharp intellect, creative spirit, love, and all other good things truly blossom only when we let go of control, because life doesn't begin with endless attempts to fix things. Life truly begins when you stop trying so hard. Remember, life truly flourishes at the point where your obsession with control vanishes. Amidst the cold silence of Siberia, Dostoevsky experienced firsthand what he had previously only been able to portray through his writing. Cold shackles tightened around his wrists, frost bit into his skin, and he was surrounded by souls who had lost everything. Yet, amidst that utter desolation, something strangely pure began to sprout. He was broken, yes, but miraculously, he endured. And it was in that fragile space, the intersection of extreme pain and profound gratitude, that he gradually realized suffering was not a punishment, but a process of purification. Perhaps the pain you are experiencing isn't meant to destroy you, but perhaps it's trying to cleanse you of the illusions you still mistake for truth. The illusion that you need to be absolutely perfect to be worthy of love. The illusion that life is only truly beautiful when it carries some profound meaning. The illusion that controlling everything will keep you safe. In his masterpiece Crime and Punishment, the murderer Raskolnikov was immersed throughout the story in the labyrinth of his own mind, constantly justifying, rationalizing, and building solid walls of reasoning to evade his guilt. However, only when he dared to confess his crime, only when he consciously accepted suffering, did the true awakening begin. His liberation didn't come from proving himself right, but from his own breakdown, his own shattering. From accepting a harsh truth, pain is not opposed to life. On the contrary, it is the most powerful testament to life's existence. Have you ever wondered what happens when pain meets consciousness? That very moment will miraculously temper and purify your soul. It burns away all false layers, leaving only the essence of truth, like shimmering veins of gold hidden in cracked rocks, waiting to be discovered. A little-known truth: true beauty is not something that exists despite pressure, but rather a product forged by it. And this is the profound lesson that the great writer Dostoevsky learned. Suffering is not a sign of failure, but an essential path for us to evolve. He himself once contemplated and wrote, "Excessive consciousness is a disease." Ironically, despite considering it a serious illness, he dedicated his entire life to immersing himself in consciousness, to feeling every nuance, even the most painful ones, because only by daring to confront the abyss of pain can we truly overcome it. Every deep wound on you is an unclosed chapter. Every sorrow is a reflective mirror, posing the nagging question, will you resist it or let it guide you, teaching you valuable lessons? When pain is embraced, it doesn't make you withdraw. On the contrary, it shapes and builds who you are. It possesses extraordinary power, transforming extreme fear into profound humility and despair into boundless compassion. Dostoevsky bravely walked through a sea of trials, and when he emerged, he saw the world through completely different eyes. He understood that suffering, though it can crush us, is also the key to liberation. And if you dare to open your heart, your pain will bring similar release. The purpose is not to end your life story, but to refine and purify it, transforming it into your most authentic self. We often spend our entire lives trying to keep the world from falling apart, to rationalize chaos, and to make everything perfect, as if that perfection could save us from a challenging human existence. However, control is never the true destination. It's merely a distraction, an illusion. Then comes a moment when all efforts collapse. You will break, or you will be forced to stop. It is in that moment of being forced to stop that an undeniable truth will emerge, clearer than ever before. You will realize that everything you've been diligently pursuing is essentially a variation of fear, and all your efforts are a way to escape inner stillness. And most importantly, life has never demanded that you strain to force it, but merely that you learn to let it unfold naturally. Dostoevsky did not find this truth in comfort or ease, but precisely in the depths of despair when he stood on the brink of life and death. When stripped of everything, he awakened to a truth few can grasp. True peace comes not from controlling or mastering everything, but from letting go. Have you ever wondered where the meaning of life lies? It's not about trying to conquer everything, but rather about allowing life to touch and shape who you are. You'll be surprised to learn that. The moment you stop being overly concerned, everything in life will begin to flow smoothly on its own. And the main reason is that we've been too focused on controlling every aspect. The obsession with results or your self-image will inadvertently obscure your vision, preventing you from recognizing the silent wisdom that orchestrates everything deep within. An interesting truth is, you were not born to try and push against the river of life, but to learn how to immerse yourself and flow with its natural current. Therefore, bravely let go of your calculations, stop clinging to what isn't yours, and cease resisting things as they naturally are. Instead, open your heart to receive, let all events pass through you, allow them to temper and shape who you are, and let them operate freely according to natural laws. It's important to understand that the art of non-concern doesn't mean giving up or being indifferent. On the contrary, it's the ability to accept and go with life as it is, not as you expect or demand it to be. You will feel a great liberation. When you stop holding on to everything too tightly, the universe will have enough space to circulate energy and life through you. An interesting paradox is, stopping being overly concerned isn't because nothing matters, but precisely because everything in life carries a deep meaning and importance.